Well, good afternoon. Happy Sabbath. We're so glad you can join us for this special Mission TV Live. We've got a special guest with us this evening, but first I want to share with you that my husband John is here with me this evening hosting the show, co-hosting the show.
Sitting next to you this time.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's very nice.
Anyway, we want to talk about missions. We want to talk about some things in Asia, which is very dear to our hearts. And we have a little bit...
It's a very different show. First of all, we're not Monday night.
Right, and we can say Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
And that's Happy Sabbath. So,
yes.
Feliz Sábado. That's one of the few Spanish phrases John knows.
Yes.
Anyway.
Don't get that mixed up with Feliz Navidad.
No. But I would like to start out by giving you the contact information because it's sometimes we just want to have people start thinking that if you have a question or a comment at any point in the show, you can call us at 423-413-7321, or you can send an email to live@missiontv.com. You can send to us on Facebook at Mission TV Live, and then also by Twitter, Mission TV_com. And I think I did them in the wrong order, but anyway, that's okay.
If you go to Facebook, just do a little like thing. You know, the like thing. I think that's what you call it. You just like it. You like it? And then more people get to see it that way.
Oh, okay.
So it does your part for missions promotion.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's the Facebook, what do they call that?
Stuff.
Advertising.
Yeah.
Count or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so if you come up with an idea or a comment at some point in the show, please feel free to contact us. Now, we're going to try to be sensitive to the issues that we're discussing at the time. So, yes. And also, if you're shy and you want to ask a question, but you don't have access to email or something, you can call and leave a question with the young lady that's answering the phone, and then they'll send it to us. So,
yes.
Anyway,
this is also a special show because it's 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. It's twice as long.
So we're going to have an intermission halfway through, Lord willing.
Okay.
But we're going to go 2 hours, so we'll have plenty of time. A lot of times in our 1 hour, I feel like we just get through the subject and people
are into the subject.
Yeah, and people are listening. I watched it when I was in Thailand when you were doing it with Luis, and I was and with David, and I was thinking, I was listening so much that I couldn't take the time to think of a question to ask. I was just like, what's next? What's next? So hopefully with this little extra time and with somebody that's so gracious and such a kind-hearted person, maybe we'll have more time to think of some of these questions. Okay, well, that's the other reason we've started as soon as we know what the topic is for the show. Yes. We've started posting it on Facebook and we send out an email at least once a week, letting people know what the question is, what the topic is, so people can start thinking ahead of time. And we've had, in the last few weeks, we've had a lot of responses on Facebook from people with input into the show, and it really helps us to see what people are thinking and to have, because we talk about these things, but we're a crew of 7? Something
8.
like that. And we've grown that
We have
much.
extra people this evening helping us that aren't normally here on a day-to-day basis. But anyway, we talk about these things, but sometimes we don't think of things that people, are normal thoughts to other people. So it's really important that we have your input. We really appreciate it, and we like it very much.
Insights.
Besides the fact that it helps us to know that people are actually watching and communicating.
They might be interested in who these people are and what kind of paycheck they're getting for Mission TV running. How is Mission TV run? I mean, how do we do all this?
I thought that would be a topic for a different show, but
yes, we'll highlight it here. But
it's all volunteer.
Yes,
pretty much. We have a few people that have small stipends, but that's it.
Yeah,
most of us God pays us, and that's it. So He pays us, but that's
a work of love.
Yeah.
We feel God is calling His church back into missions. In fact, we are absolutely convicted about that. And so we want to do our part to help bring that call home to each person's heart, bring missions back into the consciousness of our people, because I believe that it will be a great blessing to anybody that wants to get involved and actually steps out.
So,
yes.
Shall we start tonight's show with a introduction of our special guest?
Yes.
Okay. Our special guest this evening is Pastor Doug Venn.
Yes.
He is coming to us from the Southern Asia Pacific Division of Seventh-day Adventists, which is based in the Philippines. And we got to know Doug when he was working in Thailand, in Bangkok. And so we'll be focusing a lot on that, but that area of the world, the Southern Asia Pacific Division, is home to 14 countries, and many of them have, well, if you look at it statistically, as Doug is going to share with us, it's a pretty large number of people that are unreached in their area. So we'll get into those statistics in just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But welcome, Doug. Welcome to the show. We're so happy that you could be with us.
It's an honor to be here with the Jesus for Asia team. And so I was remembering, John, how did we meet? Do you remember that story?
Well, yeah, you and I, we met, I think it was a divine encounter and divine arrangement, because we were in Bangkok on a tour with some other friends, and we just decided that we would go to church. We weren't sure which church to go to, so we just went to the Mission Hospital Church.
No, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it
And
was
somebody
Chinese
there
church.
said, there's some kind of training going on over at the other place, and would you like to go? We're like, we have no idea how to get there. She says, well, that was Juby. No, not Juby.
No.
That was Sudakar's wife.
Yeah.
Oh, Ajahn Talim.
Shalim, yes.
Yeah.
And she just got back from India. And so we got in the taxi with her, and we showed up, and she recognized your wife as being somebody that she went to
High school with. Yeah, I was a year or two behind her, but.
And
yeah.
then you came and says, I'm trying to set up this television camera, and can you help? I'm like, oh, okay. And that's how we met.
That's what I do.
That's right. And I know in that
And that was an answer
situation,
to-
That was an answer to my prayer, because we were trying to set up this training, and I wanted to document it, so then that way those who could not attend, they could then avail from that training. And I think that was Dr. Pat Gustin, who is the one talking about issues of missions. And so in my heart, I was like praying to the Lord, send me someone who can help me with the video. Yes. And guess what? You were the answer to my prayer.
Yes, and I remember you asking, can you stay here full time? And my heart just being torn, because I would have loved to work for you in your vision. If the Lord had let me, I would have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But later we got to work together.
That's right. So that was something where you and Gary Krause from the General Conference, you guys were conspiring against me.
No, it wasn't like that at all.
Yes, it was. It was John, as was sharing at the Upper Columbia Conference. They had some mission festival.
Mission
Fest,
Expo or
yeah.
Mission
Yeah,
Fest
so
or
at the-
something.
At the Upper Columbia Academy. And that's where John pitched this idea of a TV show of highlighting the needs of the mission and through a missionary's eyes. And that's where then what happened.
Well, I was actually trying to get my
Someone
friend,
else
the
to
other
do
guy
the work.
living in Bangkok, to
Right.
do it. And then I just kind of pitched this idea on the side, and they liked it and hired me. And I was kind of hoping they wouldn't hire me, because I knew I was a kind of busy guy, and I knew it was going to change my life. And so they said yes.
You mean it was going to take over your life?
As you know very well. I said,
That's what video does.
Yeah, but this was born out of, that week or that time that we had met before, we'd gone out and I had videotaped some of the church planting work that you were doing.
Right.
And I saw an opportunity to look at kind of a cross-section or a sample of what's happening in the mission field. Because I had seen in my travels such a, what can you say, a destitute, because giving has been going down every year since 1935 or so. It's just been going down per person, And so what's that look like on the front line? And so I saw that you were there, you were excited, you were planting places, churches, and then we did that seminal video of you showing in the Voice of Prophecy office.
Which we have some footage
We have the
of
clip
that.
here, we'll show later, but you're showing how pitiful the supplies you had to give to people that were seeking answers. And I saw that, and I says, this needs to be done. And so actually when Gary came along and hired me, it was a double blessing, because I wanted to do this show anyway. So when they paid me to do it, it's like, okay, this is this is a good excuse to do something else. But secondly, this now is the show that we're going to be doing, finishing, is now not coming just from me.
Right. Yeah, because Gary Krause is one of our associate secretaries of the General Conference, and he's my boss as he's the director for Adventist Mission. And Adventist Mission is the church planting arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yes.
And we're responsible for church planting overseas, and whether it's in the jungles or in the urban jungles, the cities, or in the villages, and among the unreached language groups. And so this is something where that church planting, Jesus invites us to go to the planet to bring this message of hope. And so that's where we're honored that the church and the General Conference is honored to partner with you, with Jesus for Asia, as a supporting ministry and a member of ASI in this collaboration to share and to kind of what's the purpose of the show?
Wow. Basically, it's to bring awareness of what's really happening in the mission field. A lot of people aren't aware that there's needs in the mission field. A lot of people don't know the status of the mission field, don't realize a lot of things about. A lot of people are told and believe that the work is almost done. The Matthew 24:14 is almost completed. That the gospel has almost gone to the whole world. In fact, we hear quite often that it's gone to 95% of the world, and we're just waiting for Jesus to come. As a matter of fact, I saw an advertisement on the back of a church newsletter. It has a bride sitting, hands folded in her lap, saying, "Still waiting." And do you see that as an accurate?
I think that a more accurate picture would be that Jesus is the one waiting, and as the bride is supposed to be, we as the bride, as the Church of Christ, are to share the message of hope through service into a hurting world, into a world that in our area has never heard the gospel. They've never heard this message of hope and of warning that we have been asked to share to the planet. And so that would be a more accurate picture, that Jesus is waiting for us as the bride to engage, to care for those who've never heard.
Yeah, yeah. And the bride is made up of?
Well, it's you and I.
Yeah.
It's you and I.
It's the church.
And believers
Every
from the
church
whole
member.
world.
Yeah.
And so
People that don't believe yet because they don't know.
Yeah. How did you end up in Bangkok?
Well, I don't know if we can go to
Sure.
I want to introduce you to
We've got the...
to my family.
Yeah.
This is my lovely bride, and so Dawn Jacobson, and so I have the privilege of being married to her now for 21 years as of September 6th, so about a month ago. And so she's from Massachusetts, and we actually met in Palau in Micronesia when we were student missionaries. And that kind of put us on a trajectory to then serve overseas and to have a heart for those who've never heard. The Lord, I had the privilege of serving as a pastor in the Upper Columbia Conference for 14 years and serving some great churches there in Wenatchee, then Spokane Valley, and then I had the privilege of going to Andrews University to seminary, and then we came back, and then the Lord, during my time away, really through some of my mentors, Russell Burrell and Don James, and some of these other heroes of faith for me, Ron Gladden, they had a chance to put this church planting seed into my heart. And so that's where we then had the privilege of planting a church in the Moscow Pullman area, targeting the young adults at the two public universities, Washington State University and the University of Idaho. And so it was there that we then started to wrestle with some of these issues, because we had Buddhist neighbors, we had Muslim neighbors, and we had Hindus. And I remember standing on the steps of our campus ministry house with my Lutheran campus pastor colleague, Pastor Nick, and he goes, "How are we going to reach these natives? We don't even speak their language." And so it was so true, because there's these generation gaps, and with these young people who they have no background to the gospel, And this is something where in the Pacific Northwest part of the United States, it is one of the most unchurched regions. I remember playing basketball with one guy, and I said, do you go to church? And he goes, no, I've never been. I said, so what's your picture of church? And he goes, he had to scratch his mind, and he goes, I think I saw something on TV through the Simpsons. And so his picture of church was from this cartoon.
Wow.
And so this is something where during our time there, as I had the privilege of working and walking with some of the greatest people on the planet there in that district, we got to see how church planting can make a difference in people's lives. That's where 2 kids were born, Joshua and Hannah. And so we had a chance to then, experience life and the joys of parenting. It was at that time God put a restlessness in my heart for overseas and for the cities. And so we prayed about that, and even my conference president, Max Torkelson, he said, Doug, I sense God's Spirit is moving in your heart, and I sense a restlessness. And so they tried to find a call somewhere in the conference, and those doors didn't work out. But then the Lord called us one Sunday as we were wrestling with another call to go to Texas conference. We got a phone call from the Southern Asia Pacific Division. Would you consider being the church planting director for this mission to the cities? It was actually at that time called Hope for Big Cities project in Bangkok, Thailand. And so it was during the 2005 GC session, the Tell the World initiative was launched. And what that was is to, for each of us as church members, to then reach up to God and to connect with Him in a living, vital faith. Reach out, reach across to our church members so we can be united in ministry, and then reach out to those who have never heard. So that Tell the World strategy and initiative was launched. So part of that, Jan Paulson, under his leadership at the General Conference and with the team, Mike Ryan, they then launched the Hope for Big Cities. And I think that there were several world offerings, and then the offering at the GC session in 2005, they had this pool of funds. And that is what was used then to start our Hope for Bangkok church planting initiative.
Okay, so you
God put us in the slingshot, and then we landed there in Bangkok.
Were you surprised by this call?
I was blown away because in my heart, I always wanted to serve God and to make a difference. And this is where God put this dream in my heart to touch the most lives. And I thought when we were pastoring there in Pullman, mentoring the college students and these future young adults who would be future leaders around the nation, around the world, I thought that God wanted me to pour my life into them, so then that way they could then be involved in foreign missions, and then they could change as they were professors and leaders, scientists and businessmen, housewives, whatever that God's calling in their life would be, but they would have a missionary mindset. And so then that way, so I thought God would answer my dream that way, but then I remember receiving this offering envelope, Hope for Big Cities, and Jan Paulson, our GC president at that time, he was in Bangkok. And we pressed play on this video, and he's making this as he steps out of this Bangkok bus there right by the mission. I know now where it is because we were there.
You've seen it.
But it's this crazy environment, and he steps off the bus, and in his way he then pauses and says, Bangkok is such a large city. How can we ever reach this place? And I remember, normally we press play in the offering, and then we go around and collect the funds from God's people. But this time, that offering appeal and that phone call, instead of the money, it was the offering for my family was that we put our lives, and we were the ones who went into the offering plate, and we were the ones who were sent.
So you were hoping to send others.
Well, actually, from our local church plant, we actually did send. We set up, we were serious about the Gospel Commission. So, working with our church board and our lay leaders, Dr. Spady and some of the others, we set up a system where we would send everyone during a 5-year period to go be involved in short-term or long-term missions. And so we did send young people and other people across the planet during this time, and that worked really well. But this time, it was for me to go.
Surprise.
You and your family, what ages were your children at that time?
Okay, that was in 2006 when we went. So Josh was 6, and Hannah was about 5. Yeah. So we felt that God was calling us as a family. And so as a young family, we went to this exotic, foreign place, and even to a city. Can you imagine that? So God called us as a family to go in there and serve. So
you didn't have any fears, any moments, any kind of like...
I grew up in northwestern Washington and to the northern panhandle of Idaho, so I'm kind of a country guy. And my wife grew up in the South Lancaster, Massachusetts. And so the city, and a city like this megalopolis of Bangkok with 12 million people, that one was a bit, it was really overwhelming when we first got there. Just even basic duties of like, where do you go to get food? And we didn't speak the language. And I remember my wife, she blogged about this one, so she already made this public so I can feel I can tell this story. I wish she was here now, but she's watching right now. So that we couldn't even read the labels. And so she went to the store one day and she wanted to buy shampoo and, conditioner. And it's like, well, there's this whole, she got to the aisle there and she's like, which one is shampoo and which one's conditioner? And so there's no one around who could speak English. And so it just was, it made life really, complex. And so that's where we dove into language study. We dove into the work there. And, it was really rough at the beginning. Because of some of the maintenance issues and they're going on with certain septic systems. And
we were there during one of those times at least.
Yeah, you were there. So to spare our viewers the
agony
of the details, but we just we didn't go there for a comfort. We didn't go there for to be comforted, have these creature comforts.
So you didn't go there to have a nice retirement and to just kind of sit back and do nothing.
So we wanted to go and serve.
Put up with some of the. So what's the Thai word for shampoo?
It's spelled shampoo, but it's in Thai characters.
Oh, that's funny.
So anyway, we found that out later after we learned the language.
So it's kind of unique that this language doesn't just have different words for things, but it actually a completely different alphabet.
Yeah, it is. But the language allows you to see a window into the people's lives, and so that was such a joy. I knew that I had to, one of the requirements for my being there from the General Conference was I needed to become fluent. And so this was where the church planting project had already started. And so we, 6 months earlier, and so the team needed coaching and support. And so I'd get up at like 4 in the morning, do the morning duties, get up, hit snooze a couple times, and then start, with devotions, breakfast, and then I'd do my morning commute because then I'd have to be of about an hour, motorcycle, taxi, and then across the town, I'd have to take the train, and that was about an hour to be in class by 8 o'clock. Wow. And so I'd have to do my homework at that time too. And then I'd be done around 1 with class, and then an hour commute home. And then by 2, I'd work till 2 to maybe 6, 7 o'clock, eat, and then go to bed sometime, and then start that over. And so that one, I love life, and I'm full of energy, and so this is something where it did take a toll, but I know I was so hungry to learn the language because I've been given such great hope, and I know that we've been called there to serve and then to share that hope, that grace that Christ has given to us with the Thai people.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I want to pause for a moment to invite our viewers, if you have any questions or comments that have come to mind already, to call in at 423-413-7321, to email us at live@missiontv.com, to send us by Facebook your comment. Mission TV Live is the page. Or also you can send us by Twitter, missiontv_com.
Do you have a Twitter account?
No, but you do. No, but Mission TV does. That's
Yes.
what's important.
Yes.
I'm not important.
Have you ever Twittered?
I haven't. I've read Twitter
On my account?
on Mission TV.
Okay. Have you ever tweeted?
No.
It's a lot of fun.
Can we move on?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So when we met you, you'd been there for quite a while and seemed to have settled in nicely.
Yeah, settling in nicely would be an understatement. I made so many mistakes there, and culturally, and the Thais were so gracious. And I remember, some of my counterparts there at the Thailand Adventist Mission, they would just come alongside me so politely and say, "Pastor Venn, it's best if you try doing things this way." And I'd be mortified that I was like, oh no, I was offending them, and I said, please next time tell me these things in advance. And so, we thought we'd offend you, and it's like, no, you'd offend me if you didn't tell me. So next time if I do that, please help me understand the culture. And so this is something the Thai culture is so rich and deep and beautiful, and there's so many things that I had a chance to learn about God, His grace, and His love for this planet, love for this people, for this country, that it gave me some insights into the heart of God. And so that was something where I am so thankful to have served under 3 presidents, Pastor Rangsit Satayoaksakun, Pastor Somchai Chinjit, and then most recently, the 3rd president is Pastor Chenchai Kita Yangong. So these are some things that I learned so much from these men and from our team there. So that was something where they were so gracious they could understand my heart. My last name, one transition that took place was my last name, Venn, means in Norwegian friend. But in Thai, the certain spelling of that, they don't have a V letter, they have a W, so it's Wen. And anyway, kind of, if you say it at the wrong tone, then it becomes, the meaning of my name becomes reincarnation to be the lowest life form, which is a dog. And so this is where my Thai counterpart, Dr. Surachet Insom, he came up to me and said, "Oh, we got to give you a new name." And so I said, it's true. By God's grace, we'll get those new names on a white stone that Jesus is writing for us. But there, Dr. Surachet was so kind and gracious. He said, I turned to him and said, "Dr. Surachet, would you give me a new name? A Thai name?" And so he said, "Okay, I'll do that." And then that's where maybe about a week I was able to work with him and some of my other Thai counterparts, and he was then able to know my heart and how I have such a passion to advance the gospel through church planting, to then to serve and to multiply. And so that's what it gave me is anek, which means multi-purpose, or it has that idea of multiplication, of expanding. And so that's where that was another one of those transitional moments there that again I thank my Thai counterparts and there at the Thailand Mission, those who've retired as well as those currently serving.
So before you went to Bangkok, you had a certain picture of missions, and now that you look back at the way that you approached missions, thought about missions, dealt with missions, describe that person.
Well, I remember reading, there was a quote from the Spirit of Prophecy that talked about how as I was reading through, it really jumped out at me because there it was in, I think, Review and Herald in 1909, where she said that that ministers forget 4 great areas of work, and that was systematic benevolence, health ministry, and then also she then mentions the great branches of the missionary work. And so as a pastor, I was always supportive of missions. I mean, as a church planter, we're on the growing edge of the church, you know, looking for those people who have never heard. We're going into communities where there's no Adventist presence, and many places that there has been no chance for these people, wherever they are, to hear a message of hope, you know, this last day calling of God, which we find our prophetic propellant, as it were, this rocket that God has launched and ignited to share to the planet. But we haven't, in that case, I have not had a chance to then see, you know, I was always supportive of missions, and my wife and I, our lives were changed when we were served as student missionaries. But then, you know, I had some pictures that maybe weren't quite accurate, you know, and one of them was the funding. You know, I always thought, you know, if you look at a tithe envelope, you know, there's, you know, you give your tithe and your offerings, the local church. I intimately knew those things because as a church planting pastor, you know, your ministry to the community, and you know, the utilities and all your ministries to the church members, and you know, that's what you see.
You see that in your face every day.
Exactly. You live and breathe that.
Your whole passion, your whole vision, life, ambition is around your church.
Right. But then on the offering envelope, at least with the Upper Columbia Conference, there were some other lines. I knew exactly where the money went with the Upper Columbia Conference, because they had a church planting initiative. They started BibleInfo.com. They had some incredible web initiatives.
And you'd go meet with the conference officers?
Yeah, you know, the conference team would then share. We'd have pastors' meetings where they'd share, you know, here's where the funds are going, here's where we're, you know, the direction we're wanting to go. And so then that way they informed us. But then there's this third section. That was world budget and world mission. And yeah, we had some faithful members who would give to that, but it was kind of a small priority. And I had been overseas because our church had led a mission trip to Zambia, and we sent our missionaries, and so I got to see, but I really didn't understand the need for missions and the funding until I went overseas. And then actually, I really didn't understand, and the premise of the show that, you know, was commissioned by the General Conference, that you were asked to film, and through our experience, this drop in mission giving, I didn't really, it's like, you know, John, I don't understand that, but I understood it later, fully, when I came to the division. And maybe we can go to our slides at this time?
Yes, absolutely. Well,
oh, yeah. These are my...
I was going to comment on the previous slide that Josh is not that height anymore.
No, yeah,
He's
that
had
picture is 2 years.
significant growth.
Yes,
growth.
Yeah, so that was... that's very true. He's grown about 6 inches since that photo. So here he is. He's now 15 and a half, and he's got his cat Tesco, or Momo, as he calls her, and she's 7 years old, part of the family. And then Hannah's now 14, and she's holding Tiger, or Lotus, and that cat is also 7. So they're great kids, and we're doing missions as a family.
So they spend a significant portion of their life, like half their life, in Bangkok.
That's correct. They can speak Thai, and the Thais tell me that they speak with no accent.
Really? As opposed to...
All right.
Yeah, you know, me, I still speak Spanish like a gringo, and I speak Thai like an American anyway. So that's where... anyway, so...
So growing up as missionary kids, it hasn't really hurt them
We'll see in the future, but I think that God has, through His grace, they've been able to be exposed to some of the joys and the beauty of overseas work, as well as then they've seen some things that maybe have the reality and the need. They've been to slums and some of these other things. Other places that most people haven't had a chance to go. So they have seen and been exposed to the need of humanity and the need of the front line.
Right. Maybe we should show the intro of the show so people have an idea of what we're talking about here. And there it is. Over the past 60 years, there's been a massive decline in foreign missions.
I'm sharing the gospel through church planting.
In the 1930s, if somebody gave $10 in Thai, they'd give an additional $6 in foreign missions. Today, just 28 cents.
We're doing the best we can with what we have, but I'm still not satisfied.
Over 2 billion people in the world today still have no access to the gospel.
God's crazy in love with the Thai people, and I sense His Spirit hovering over the city.
I've come to Bangkok, Thailand to discover the truth about foreign missions. Come with me as I follow my good friend, Pastor Doug Venn, in his everyday life as a frontline missionary.
I prayed for God's biggest dream, and He gave me this city of 12 million. Welcome to my world.
Okay, so this is the open for the show that we're doing 13 segments on, half hour each, hopefully for the Hope Channel, and as far as it can go. Why do you want you're visiting us for this specific purpose of helping to move this show forward, to finish it up? Why would you take time out of your busy schedule to come here for that purpose? What is it that?
Well, this show, as you saw the intro, is looking at the issues of missions, and it's looking at of what is the reality and the issues that I faced. I mean, you and we also, I want to acknowledge some of the other team who supported us.
Yes.
There was Andrew Aldridge. He
Yes.
was one of our student missionaries from Southern Adventist University. He came as a film major, and he was also one of the ones who helped film this, Nicole Pidou, and she was a graphic designer from Pacific Union College, and so she helped to work with us. We had Acharya Sepan, or Goit, as a Thai video intern, and so working together as we did the show. We also had Shannon Green as our Australian video producer. He
Yes.
also helped shoot some of this. And so the team, you guys were with me, 8 months, filming every day. I remember having that camera follow me 10, 12, 14 hours a day.
Yes.
And from that, it was just like having an extra friend. And you know how friends can be sometimes. Sometimes you enjoy the friendship, and other times the friendship, because of space, becomes annoying.
Yes.
And so I remember
there were times.
Yeah, there were these times where we had the reality of both of a real experience.
It's almost like a marriage.
Well,
I mean, not that far, but I mean,
It was a lot of time invested.
Yes.
so
Very close together.
So what happened was the reason why I've come for this trip, Gary Krause from the General Conference, we're wanting to do a rollout of the TV show as you and your editing team with Jesus for Asia are finishing up the episodes. We're looking through to say, and prayerfully going through each episode to say, what are the issues that are being raised here? Because this was my life. I mean, you are producing the show, but it was, Dawn and I, our experience, and our church planting team, the Thailand mission team, and you're filming And we're facing just everyday life because we did not alter our schedule. We did not alter the activities.
In fact, that was the premise of the show. I didn't want to come in with an
Agenda,
agenda
planned.
and say, okay, let's do this, let's do that. I wanted to just kind of embed and be more of a journalistic approach to see what you had to deal with in your everyday life, to see Bangkok and this work through your eyes, but not try to shape that, not try to change it because the camera was there. Because I think a lot of times we get kind of a pre-designed plastic view of what's happening over there. I wanted to see what the reality was.
Yeah, and that's where we, the premise of the show, as we face the joys, as well as we face the low times, the camera caught it all.
Yes.
And
you were very gracious in opening your heart to the camera.
Yes, it was an honor to be a part of the process. And I know that the show should not be about me. It should be that Christ should be seen. That's my hope and desire. Yes. The show really highlights actually the unseen heroes of our global mission pioneers, our church planting team on the front line, and the issues and struggles, their daily challenges that they face. I, as a foreigner, I mean, we served there nearly 6 years. Okay, but now I'm gone. But they are still there. They're still being called by God to reach that city, the city that I love, Bangkok, Thailand. And that's why, I love the title that was selected. I want this city. And so this is where those issues that we face, whether the challenges, and you had a very fascinating premise that those issues are actually, there's a cause and effect and direct correlation with us back home. And a generation or 7 decades of a lack of giving towards mission. I never saw it directly, and I wondered, what is John doing here for this? But then as you would ask me questions, as I faced challenges, and then I had this mosquito, right in my ear, and that's where, patience with the viewers, as I sometimes vent my frustration to John or to the, Andrew or Shannon, to say, why are you asking me these questions?
Irreverent questions.
Yeah, irreverent questions. Why are you trying to do this? Because it was actually a self-discovery process for me, is that when we would face a roadblock, I was dealing with the roadblocks or the challenges right in front of us. Whether, lack of resources, lack of people, challenges within the city government. We faced riots and floods. We faced, internal challenges within my own self. We faced external challenges. I mean, we had coups, bombings. We had just this whole city, the complexities that not only Bangkok faces, but my story is now repeated across the planet. Because these same issues, the same cause and effect correlation with a lack of mission giving can be found in Tokyo, in New York City. I just spent 1 month in New York City with NY13 as a part of the Global Church's Urban Initiative. And there I found the same premise. I asked the team, I said, I want to go to the hardest place on the planet there in Manhattan. And they assigned me to a place where we got to see, again, that direct correlation. Here's a facility, it's great, it's right next to the Bryant Park and the New York Public Library, and 3 blocks away or 4 blocks away from Times Square, where like over 50 million visitors came through just last year. So we have this prime location, but it's run down. I asked the window washer there, I said, what's the slowest elevator in New York City? And as we're going up, just crawling, excruciating, in this small little closet of an elevator. And he goes, I think it's this one. I think it's this one. And so this is where right now, and the New York conference is doing the best they can.
Right.
And some of my team leaders from Asia, they were when we had a chance to sit down with the New York conference administration and say, well, why can't you renovate this building? Why can't you get a new elevator? And they were saying, we're doing what we can, but a new elevator is $150,000, and then to start bringing in these other issues. And so I saw that premise that you had coming in, and I think God gave that to you and to Gary Krause, that insight. And in the TV show, I was discovering that as we went along, to find whether it's with our literature, whether with our these other issues in the church planting setting.
So you saw that premise, but you didn't quite understand it until you moved into the divisional. And I think we've got some like here's your statistics. This is your division. This is now Adventist Mission. Now a lot of people don't know what Adventist Mission is. They sound because we got Adventist Mission, Adventist Frontier Missions, Adventist Southeast Asia. I mean, Adventist. Are you a supporting ministry of the Adventist Church?
Yeah. Well, let me hopefully answer that. So what's going on is that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has different departments, and we have publishing, health, ministerial, and that's how we started off 150 years ago.
Okay.
And so what happened was at that time, everyone was involved in the frontline work.
Right.
But all paid pastors
were church planters.
Were church planters. Were they were riding the rails and going from little village. And
so who was taking care of the churches?
But the members were taking care of the churches.
Really?
Yes, and that's
lay people are qualified for that.
Yes, that's how we were designed to be a movement of God, and so that's where the role of the lay people is so crucial. We stepped away from that about in the 1920s. And 30s, and so that's something.
That's when the Thai foreign mission giving started.
There could be a correlation there. So perhaps I'm not a scientist, but anyway, there could be a correlation. But we stepped away and we started to look at becoming like the other denominations and to have settled pastors. And so as a result, we then faced some challenges. And so this is something where right now we are Adventist Mission during the 1990 General Conference session. There the World Church decided we have to reform and adjust on how we're doing, so then that way we can then start reaching these unreached people groups, these unreached languages, these unreached cities. And that's where the Adventist Mission or Global Mission Global Mission was first started during that 1990. Later on, it became the umbrella of the General Conference of the Office of Adventist Mission.
Because it seemed like in the 70s, we recalled all our missionaries. We kind of shut down the missionary program.
Well, I mean, if you look at Iran, I mean, one of my mentoring pastors, he served in Iran. And so, of course, there's some political reasons for recalling, but, that was something where we did see a shift in our resources, our mission resources. And so during the 1990 and then later on in 2005, when Adventist Mission was then launched as the overarching umbrella for two things: church planting, as well as then to promote missions or church planting around the planet.
And so Adventist Mission is a church.
Yeah, it's
an arm of the church.
It is the arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It is the church planting arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church overseas and here. So that's right. When you see things like this, Global Mission Frontline. So this here, if you look where it's from, it says the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Okay. So just to educate people that Adventist Mission is. You may have heard that song, "Hear the Pennies Dropping, Listen to Them Fall." So anyway, the church, that's the church.
The money, when I get my tithe envelope and it says global budget or world budget,
right?
That a lot of that goes to Adventist mission.
That is correct. And here we can see in this, the latest issue of the Frontline magazine, here you can see that actually 100% of the upcoming offering November 9 is for the Global Mission Annual Sacrifice offering.
Annual sacrifice.
Yeah, so the annual sacrifice is what the global offering that is helping to fund the frontline work. And so this is something where we want to say thank you to those who are giving and sacrificing. But what we face is that is a minority among our members.
Yeah, because you say...
Those are the ones who have found the joy of Jesus Christ as they have joined him in the sacrifice of giving.
Because you say, and I know we need to go on with the show, maybe we can come back to this later, but you say, because the average giving to missions through the church, the average Seventh-day Adventist member in North America gives $21 a year.
Right.
And you say sacrifice,
now,
and you say, faithful.
and this is where
this is what happened on the show.
Yeah, and this is where right now there are a faithful few.
Few, yes.
Compared to our 17 million who part of the church. And so this is where right now the Adventist Mission, or the Office of Adventist Mission from the General Conference, is wanting to invite others to help us. And later on in the show, we can look at some of the resources that are available for helping to educate, also helping to share what is going on in the context of what is the need, because I think that's what the show does very well, is that it shows what's going on or what's not going on, but it shows it in the context of the need.
Right.
Let's look here at our Southern Asia Pacific Division. We have 14 countries within the 1040 window.
You're Adventist Mission Director.
Correct,
in this division.
In this division, now for the 14 countries. So we have from the Philippines to Pakistan, and you'll notice on this map here that there's 3 colors. There's red, yellow, and green. And just like a stop sign, we can see, well, blue is the ocean. Okay. What this is looking at is looking at our progress as an Adventist movement, as a church, in these 14 countries. And so this is something where this is looking at the people groups, the language groups. And you can see that the majority is still red. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Within our territory, we have 85%. If you look at just the language groups, hay varias gente que puedan hablar español. ¿Usted puede hablar español?
Bless you.
Okay, there's many people who can speak Spanish, right?
Doesn't help me.
Okay, and that's my point, is that if I speak Spanish or Urdu or Thai or Malay or Chinese, this is looking at the map, and you can see right now we have 85% of those language groups within our territory of 14 countries of nearly 1 billion people that are unreached. 85%. And so
these are languages.
These are language groups.
85% of all language, spoken language.
That's correct.
Groups
within the Southern Asia Pacific.
Have no access to the gospel.
They don't have any portion of the scripture.
They don't have. We as an Adventist church, there's no missionary. There's within that language group.
Right.
And there's nobody that knows.
There's no believer.
That is correct.
No believer, no missionary. No work. We haven't even started.
We sat down, and I know there will be some who want to debate or would like to know where we get this data from. We hired a consultant with GFI Consulting, and over a 2-year period, we sat down with the leaders of every territory, and we looked at all of their language groups, and they went through their membership rolls of every tribe and distinctive language group and said, of the 20,000 members here in this country, do we have any in this tribe? And then we'd have pastors and local leaders from the missions and the union and the people who knew their territory.
Very extensive study.
Very extensive.
Not just Wikipedia.
No, this is not just Wikipedia. They went through and analyzed, we might have a family of 5 of this tribe of 1 million. And so then that's where, or we might have, 20,000, we might have, and so they went through and analyzed. And so that is where the data comes from. And so this right now gives us a picture of the mission challenge.
See, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this show, is because I see this graph that has a lot of research backed up, and I hear sermons that say, we're almost done. 98% of the world has access to the gospel. In fact, my daughter was reading in her Bible study lessons in preparation for
Baptism.
and it said,
95% of the world has access to the gospel if they want to.
yes. And then I see this. And
Yeah.
so this is the main impetus for the show, is I want people, because I believe God's people are honest, and I believe that they will respond to His call if they know that He's calling.
Yeah.
You had a couple of young girls at Bangkok as student missionaries,
Right.
from Oregon.
That's right. Leah and Sarah Partman.
Yes, and I remember them saying, man, I didn't know there was needs in the mission field.
Yeah.
If I'd known, I would have helped, but
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can change.
Yeah. And I think that this is one reason for the Office of Adventist Mission is to bring that mission awareness and to help educate the church family on the needs
Yes.
in the field. I remember one of our volunteers showed up, and when they got off the airplane, and they said to me, how come no one speaks English here? And so here we even had a volunteer.
He was gonna do
He had a
evangelism.
volunteer, and their whole worldview is like,
Everybody speaks English.
everyone, they assumed that everyone spoke English on the planet.
I have a good friend who's a missionary in Thailand, and as he was getting ready to go, a good friend who was an elder came to him and says, you don't have to go anymore. We don't do it that way anymore. We just give our money to 3ABN, and they broadcast throughout the whole world, and that's how we do it now.
We praise God for 3ABN and our other media ministries, like what's here with Mission TV.
Yes.
The challenge is that in Thailand,
No one speaks.
there's very few who speak English.
Right.
And so this is where...
And if it's on satellite and it's in English, that's a double.
Right, a double
Because it's
hurdle.
expensive for the satellite dish
Yeah.
to have the installation, all that power, all that stuff. I mean, some places they're in little huts and they have a battery for power.
Right.
And it's, yeah.
Or they're in the
it's-
slum, and anyways.
And there's nothing, yeah.
Right. So this is something where, thanks to Jesus for Asia and your vision to help start these media ministries in their local languages. But that work is just now starting. And that's now that I'm serving at the Southern Asia Pacific Division, the SSD, I can now see that we do have some local language, but there's so much more that can be done.
Yes, yes. So here you go. Here's your languages.
Yes, there's. This is another part of that research on the. These are the divisions and the territories, and the number of distinctive language groups on the planet Earth. We have a total of 6,909. This comes from the latest edition of the Ethnologue, the 13th edition. So
Doesn't the Bible, in talking about the gospel going to the whole world, mention language specifically?
Yeah, it is very true. Here, the Southern Asia Pacific Division has 1,630 distinctive language groups that right now that are unreached.
Wow.
And so let's go to the next slide. Here is a breakdown of our field, and these are all the church jargon, but if we'll just look here at the first one, the East Indonesia Union Conference, 511 language groups, which are 89% unreached, which is 85% of the population.
Wow.
And so this right now, and this represents, East Indonesia represents millions of people. Indonesia happens to be the fourth largest country on the planet. With a friend of mine just did some research. It's over 220 million people.
Wow. So you've got 85% of the population that, if they say, the statement is that the gospel is available to everyone if they want it.
Right.
In order for them to get it, they would have to go and learn a new language,
Very true.
and then go figure out where they can get a Bible,
Yeah.
or meet a missionary.
What if they don't even know there is a Bible?
Yeah.
How can they want
I mean,
it if
how
they
can they
don't know
want
it
something they've
exists?
never, yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
an
like, how do
issue.
you know that mango tastes good
I've tried
if you've
it.
never, if you don't even know there is a mango?
Or durian.
Oh, well, durian's a different story. Let's not go there.
Yeah. In Revelation chapter 14, it talks about there in the three angels' message that we are to go to in verse 6. And I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. And so this is something where there are other times where this phrase is mentioned in Revelation, and we invite our viewers to that's an interesting Bible study, to look at the context. And we've been called to take this message of grace, this message of warning, this message of hope that Jesus Christ is coming soon, and take this to those who have never heard. But the facts that I've seen, and that now that I'm serving at the Southern Asia Pacific Division, is that so many have never heard. You have this now, this clip you're wanting to share is now one of those places in Bangkok. We worked there for nearly 5 years, and we just the week before had a committee meeting when those GC funds had now come to an end. And at the committee meeting, the hard reality, it was nothing to do with the Thailand mission or the leaders there, but the hard reality was the funds are gone.
So
From the division, from the general conference, from the division, the union, the local field wanted to continue it. But what are they going to do? They can't carry that cost, the budget, that financial load by themselves. And so that is where, that is the context. This was during December, I think, and we were just doing a community program. I don't know, that's the context of this
still?
clip.
just
Can
doing
we-
a community program, you have a lot of, it's the video. You have a lot of kids there. It was a really good program, very successful. You were happy about that.
Yeah.
But they had just, the local community leader had asked you to build a permanent dwelling, a church there,
Yeah.
so that you could be there full time.
Yeah.
And you had waited 10 months, and basically they
We
said,
had plans drawn up. Our
Yeah.
church planter, Pastor Concrete Inkamon, we stepped out by faith and had some blueprints drawn up, and we got 3 bids, and that's where we came to the realization it was around $30,000.
Yeah, okay, so would you like?
Let's watch the clip.
You're talking about the build that you're...
The church planting pastor has got some blueprints and from a builder, and it looks like it'll be about $1 million baht. And in US dollars today, that's around $30,000. So I know that may not seem like a lot of money to you, to me, but you know, that's, you could just describe it instead of $1 million baht, it's like $1 million.
Why would $30,000 seem like such a lot of money? If your local church were building a fellowship hall, it would be no problem raising that amount. But the fact is that that's 2/3 of the Thailand Adventist Mission's entire yearly budget for the whole country of 65 million people for all outreach, evangelism, publishing, personal ministries, etc. And this is in a country that is less than 1% Christian. How could this be? How could a country that has so much need of hearing the gospel have so little resources with which to share it? In 1933, the average Adventist in North America gave about $311 a year in tithe in today's money, and an additional $193 through the church toward foreign missions. In 2006, the average Adventist gave about $820 per year in tithe, which is more than 2.5 times what it was in 1933. But when it comes to foreign missions, today the average Adventist will give only about $21, which is 89% less than before. This drop in giving didn't exactly happen suddenly. It's been a long, slow, gradual decline to where we are today, and as you can see, our mission program is statistically nearly extinct. The truth is, we spend 8 times more on pets and 17 times more on our local church budget. How do you think this makes the missionaries feel?
We've been here for 4 years serving the people, and boys and girls and the families.
Our lack of giving tells our missionaries and leaders in other countries that we don't care about the people that they're trying to reach. It sends a strong signal to them that says, don't expand, don't do more soul winning, don't reach out to the poor. We are telling them and the universe that we don't care about the lost souls for whom Christ died, so why should they? We're saying that our money is more important to us than those people are, and we've been telling them this for decades.
These are the working class, people who the government's trying to get them out of poverty and who are looking for education. Their community leaders asked us, to teach IT, to teach computers, to teach media, to help them get out of this cycle of poverty. Our own closed eyes, we don't see that. This is Jesus Christ. Let's stop now.
This clip is so powerful to me because we were just before this talking about statistics.
Right.
We rarely get a glimpse of the human side of those.
And for me, those statistics are people. And we could, go on. We don't have time today to, go into the lives of, the grandmas, the grandpas, and, some of the other men and women there whose lives were changed because we served in practical ways. And so this is where I'm honored to share my heart. I feel like Jeremiah, a weeping prophet. But, our team on the ground, they face these challenges. Every day. And imagine being an administrator, and thank God I don't have that burden, but to make those hard decisions.
To choose between your babies.
Right. And so this is something, that it's an impossible job. And so this is where we have to, and this is the dream and hope that through this show and through the lessons and the website and some of the other things that we're in the process of developing, that we're wanting to bring about an education.
Yes.
Because this is not only Bangkok's story. This is New York. This is Tokyo, Yangon, Myanmar, Jakarta, Indonesia. You can start listing the cities around the planet, listing overseas missions. And this is the issue that we're facing. You ran into a missionary who said something that, remember that comment where I was able to verbalize things that they were thinking? Do you remember that?
Some of the questions that I was asking, people would say, "Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking." I would have asked them.
Right.
And
one thing that always strikes me when I watch this clip and when we think about the work, and we see it too, because, we've traveled in India and Thailand and Cambodia, and it's like the reality that it's people.
Right.
So many people here in America, it's like we think of them as like, I don't know, it's like we have a knowledge that they're there, but they're not real.
Yeah.
We can't touch them. And so, you're touching them. And it's, to me, it's the heart of God that I'm seeing because He loves them.
Yeah.
He knows them. He knows their whole lives, every single person that lives everywhere on this planet. And why would He want any of them to die?
Yeah.
And why would He want us to not care about them?
Yeah.
And yet, we don't realize that they're people. It's like they're not people.
Right. And this is where, as Scripture says, Jesus endured the cross for that joy. And if we too can have a chance and to experience that joy of bringing people to Christ. And right now, as you remember seeing the map on there, those places that are unreached are the major world faiths. And we have a privilege to bring this message of hope as a movement to them, to share with them, Jesus is coming soon. He cares about you. And to show it in more than words.
To be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we do have a couple of questions that have come, and we want to pause a moment to take a couple of them. One of them is a little on the lighter side. Did you have a major adjustment to the food in Thailand?
Yes, we had a major adjustment to the food. I think that I have always enjoyed spicy food growing up with my mom and her wonderful cooking. But when we went to Thailand, I remember just crying because that food was just so spicy. And now, after being there nearly 6 years, now my mouth has adjusted, and so I look for spice. And so everywhere I'm going is like, where's the chili? Where's the chili? So anyway, yes, there's been
in Thailand very well.
And also, some of the fruits we had a chance to taste. I found one type of durian I liked, and so the other ones I let the others enjoy them. So anyway, there's some other fruits there. My kids love the rambutan and mangosteen. We call the rambutan the hairy strawberry. So anyway, that's a cool fruit as well.
Yeah. Well, on the little bit deeper side, someone wanted to know if the world budget section on the tithe envelope would be where they would give their offerings to a project such as what you're talking about.
This is something right now that is true that on a regular basis, and we can see that it is that systematic benevolence, or as our pioneers would call it, Sister Betsy. When you would give, as we have been recipients of God's grace, and when you would then share out of a heart response, out of a love response, not out of because the missionary is crying, or out of the tears, from my heart, but out of that relationship with Jesus, and then that way you join Christ in sacrifice on a regular basis. Yes, the world budget would be there. We also have the annual sacrifice.
The Adventist Mission receives a portion of that.
Correct.
offering.
Annual sacrifice, 100% goes there.
So
others
That's
can,
an important date then, November 9. That's
Yeah.
an important date that we should remember.
Also on the Adventist Mission website, you can also give. It's here. I'm going to read the location. It's giving.adventistmission.org, and so that's another way to give online. And so you can go to the Adventist Mission website, which is the General Conference's website, and then you can set up online giving that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is people may find this kind of unique because I have a supporting ministry of the SDA Church,
Right.
and I did a show for the denomination,
Right.
for the General Conference, and the reason I did that, to the neglect of my ministry, was that I realized that in 2008 that the issue, I started to sense, I'd been in ministry long enough to get over the honeymoon phase,
Right.
and started to sense that people weren't really that interested in missions. That was in fact, I said to Gary when I was talking about the show, I said, do you ever feel like missions, foreign missions, kind of like the ugly stepchild of the Seventh Adventist Church? He didn't say anything, but the look he gave me was, you feel in my pain. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that's a visual quote.
Well, you're quoting yourself in this case.
Yes. He may have been thinking,
You're reading into his,
He may have been thinking, are you from Africa? I have no idea what he was thinking.
Or you're from Australia.
But out of that, I started to realize, and I started to do the research, looking at this is a worldwide cultural issue.
Yeah.
In other words, we have a culture in our church, a Seventh Adventist culture in our church, that is able to neglect missions
Right.
and still feel okay with God. And that is, I think, a description of the Laodicean state.
Yeah.
And so that is why I wanted to do this show, is to bring back into and that's why we're doing Mission TV, is to bring missions back into the consciousness, awareness, thinking, mental landscape of the Seventh-day Adventist average person, to make it not just like this, also option, way down the line, but 99.99% of our brain is about surviving, which Christ has already promised us in Matthew 6:33. But and so this show, I want people to see what I've seen, and to see what you've seen, and see what you experience, and my biggest dream is that people start giving to missions. Why?
That the work goes forward instead of either stopping or going backward because nobody's giving.
Because I want to see people like you. I want to see your church planters, the leaders of the work, think there are people over there that want to see me go forward.
Yeah. And that are behind me. And so then that way, because I had a chance to, we're not alone. I had a chance in this last year working in the division, I was asking some of the local leaders, what is your dream? What has God placed on your heart to then help finish the work in your territory? And this mission president said to me, Pastor Venn, what's the size of the budget? And so this is where, again, that response, it was a very practical one, but it also showed me kind of the framework of his thinking, because
he's been schooled.
He's been educated, and this is where, again, the premise of the show, that there's been this decline. And so our natural response, our leaders have to make the hard decisions. They have to live within their budgets.
Right.
And so that's where the work right now, though, we've been called to go to every language, kindred, tongue, and people. And so there's this gap there. And so that's where we're calling God's people, whether through the show, through our supporting ministries, or through the general conference. We're wanting to work together to then focus on what brought Christ joy, and that is to bring and to save those who've never heard.
Yes, and this is a benefit to us here also, and this is a ministry. I don't see this as just trying to get money from Americas it's a ministry to my church here at home, because the biggest challenge that we have as Laodiceans is that we're rich and increased with goods, and we get trapped by them. And in letting that go, we're transferring our earthly wealth into heavenly treasure.
Because it's going into people.
Yes.
The front line, those lives are being changed.
Yes, and so our hearts start to go to heavenly things rather than earthly things, which is a really good thing when you see that the world is going to end pretty soon. Right. It's nice to know you have like an option. And so I would like to bring on my friend. You know him.
Can we just have a comment from a viewer real quick?
Absolutely.
We had a viewer that said that our conversation brings to mind to them Romans chapter 10, verses 13 through 15. Would you like to look that up and read that? That's Romans 10, verses 13 through 15.
Yes. For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Then how shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him on whom they have not heard? And how shall they not hear without a preacher? And how shall they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace, who bring glad tidings of good things. Yeah. Excellent.
We need to send. We need to send.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the beautiful feet never go there.
Yeah.
So let's...
We're going to have a show soon about objections to missions, and one of those objections,
Monday night's show.
Yes, is Mrs. White says that there will be people in heaven that are there, even though they've never heard the name of Jesus. So we don't have to go.
Yeah,
because God will do it. Okay.
I just want to again invite our viewers to call in 423-413-7321. Or email us at live@missiontv.com if you would like to send a comment or a text or something that makes you think of. And then also you can send us by Facebook. Mission TV Live is our page there. And then by Twitter, missiontv_com. So those are the ways to contact us at this point. So, all right. Do you have a video,
Yes,
or would
I
you like
have
to?
a video, and we'll bring. Okay, this is.
This is at the Nonthaburi church plant, and thanks to John Mew and John Suntorn and Saul Alvin and the team there, and John C. Suntorn, they had a chance to meet a realtor, and we're going to now hear from this realtor, Miss Gan. She's a precious woman with a Buddhist background. And we're going to now have I think I'm going to interview her.
Yes.
If this church plant wasn't here, would these people have a chance to know Jesus Christ?
If this church plant wasn't here, I don't think that these people would have a chance. Wouldn't have a chance, yeah.
When you got here,
Yeah.
did the people that you meet, did they already know about Jesus?
No, they didn't know about Jesus, yeah.
Never heard?
They never heard, yeah.
So I was asking Miss Gan, who is a Buddhist, that 5 years ago, before when the center just started and she came to here to study English, had you ever heard of Jesus Christ before? And her answer to me was no, she'd never heard the story about Jesus before.
Had she ever heard the name of Jesus?
เคยได้ยินชื่อพระเยซูสมัยก่อนเคยได้ยินไหม So no, she had never.
Never.
So ขอโทษครับพี่อายุเท่าไหร่
45.
45 years old.
45.
How old were you the very first time you heard about Jesus?
So อายุเท่าไหร่เวลาได้ยินชื่อพระเยซู So อายุเท่าไหร่
45.
So เดือนนี้45ใช่แต่เวลาได้ยินชื่อพระเยซูเป็นประมาณ5 ปีที่แล้วใช่ไหม Okay, so she was 40 years old.
So here's a lady that was 40 years old before she heard of Jesus Christ, and the only way she did hear was through this church plant.
That's right. That's right.
You know, this has been a lot of work for me, editing. The shooting went by. I could get a show done in about a day, although it took a long time, about 4 months, before I actually started to get a grip on how the show was going to be shot and come out and look. And we spent 8 months shooting it. But then the editing was just tremendously overwhelming, and got through a lot of the shows, but we've got another ministry going and everything like that. So through the workings of the Holy Spirit, my dear friend Kirk Van Buren was interested and heard the call and came out to help with the editing. And so he's actually edited parts of one show and then almost entire 2 shows. And he's never edited video before, but some people may recognize him as the voice of Christian on the amplified Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Yeah, and he did a lot of editing with that, with tape and a razor blade and Scotch tape.
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't do computer audio editing
Just
then.
a couple.
We're all young here.
But he came to this show and he was excited about working on it, and his insight to the impact that this show is going to have, I was just wondering if you'd be willing to share that.
Well, this is, I feel, one of the most powerful shows I've ever seen. You know, one of the things that, how the Holy Spirit stirred my wife and I, you had loaned us a number of years ago, or I should say given us a copy of a faith camp that you did a number of years ago. And during that faith camp, you played one of the scenes where you went to Pastor Doug's office and you got to see firsthand the miserable situation of the materials that he had to work with. Not only the fact that he didn't have very much in the way of materials, but the materials he had were copies of copies that were 30 years old. I mean, it was horrible. And when my wife and I saw that episode, we wanted to give money now so that this could be done. You cannot help but see the pain in that scene and the intense struggle and frustration that a church planter would have in such a huge city, and it's evident the incredible love that you have for the Thai people. I can't imagine a more difficult situation. But I do believe that that's where the Holy Spirit really, really got a hold of my heart and my wife's. And as I've looked at everything you've got up on Vimeo. I've looked at it quite a bit, and I feel it's going to be one of the most powerful programs that our church has ever produced. And I really believe that God is going to stir many, many hearts. Our eyes were opened to the fact that the foreign mission fields are languishing. We had no idea. We had no idea.
You came into the church. You weren't born into the church. So what did they say about foreign missions when you were coming into the church?
I never really heard anything really mentioned about foreign missions. Every now and again, a foreign missionary would be visiting and give a testimony. And I always looked at them like they were aliens. I couldn't quite understand, why would you do this? And, part of that came from the fact that we went through a seminar when I was a brand new Adventist. And I remember one of the inserts in the materials that we were given, and it had a graph, or I should say a chart, and it showed all the different denominations in Christianity, most of them anyway, the major ones. And then another column had all the countries of the world. And so this chart had a dot for each denomination and the countries that they were present in. Well, Seventh-day Adventists had more dots than any of the other denominations represented. And from that, one couldn't help but assume, no one ever really said it, but I thought, whoa, we're in every country. The work is just about done. And so that's why I kind of probably thought foreign missionaries were a little strange. Why would you uproot yourself from a perfectly wonderful country and venture off into who knows where?
To do something that's already been done.
Yeah.
Very strange.
You're a little bit frustrated or angry or you had, when you found out what the real truth is.
Well, I was, because, when you're a brand new Christian, you're excited. I mean, I was just on fire, right from the get-go. And I wanted to do full-time ministry. And had I known from the start the conditions that were in the world with our church, I would have done something. I know I would have. And it's just unfortunate because we bring so many people into the church through the different programs that we do who are excited, who have passion, who would be willing to lay down everything for Christ. And yet, as we discussed a number of weeks ago, what often happens is a wet blanket is then put on that enthusiasm of that individual. And that's tragic. And I think one of the wet blankets is that we do not promote foreign missions, and that we do not let our people know the reality. I mean, it's good to let them know the reality that, yes, we're in this country and that country, but elaborate, tell them to what extent we're in there, and give us the statistics.
And give you opportunities to maybe channel your energy. And
Absolutely.
So how many years were you in the church before you found out that there were needs in the mission field?
28 years.
28 years.
Yeah. I became an Adventist when I was 10. I'm just kidding. No. 28 years, and I just think that's really sad. And when I first became an Adventist, I actually moved from my country of origin to America.
Bangladesh?
Canada.
Oh, okay.
Might as well be Bangladesh. And I moved to America to work in a ministry, and I worked in that ministry for 2 years. But then I had a dry spell for the next 24 years or more. And had I known, I wouldn't have had to have a dry spell. I could have gone from that ministry to another ministry. And I just have such regret that all those years were wasted. It feels like a waste.
So that's one of the reasons, when you started editing the show and started watching the show, so inspired you, because here's something that will tell people
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really appreciate that it shows that activity is happening, but it shows the reality. It shows the reality, the frustration, and to be able to, as it were, go with a missionary for that long a period of time to see the highs and the lows. It communicates like nothing can to a viewer. I really do believe, with the limited means that we have now, that media is one of the most powerful tools. And I just would love to see that we would be doing media work in all the languages of the world.
Right, in all the cities of the world. Too.
All the cities, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had a question from a viewer, and that is, when are we going to be able to watch I Want This City, and where?
Well, do you want me to answer that? Or?
Yes, please.
Right now, the team, thanks to Kirk and to John and the others, we're doing the final edits of the program. And yesterday, for one episode, poor John, he was like filling one page, and then there's another page. And
I thought I was done with that episode.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're
It was beautiful. It was perfect.
We're trying to go through, and we're going to have a couple other eyes look at the show, because what we're wanting to do is not to really highlight in the context, to highlight what is going on, but then highlight the need. And we're trying to make sure that this is done in a way that if the Thai Buddhist, if Miss Gan or any of these other people were to watch it, they would then be able to, it wouldn't be offensive. And so we've got some of that fine tuning to do. There's some other technical things that you guys as the editors, and so we're working with the General Conference and our media distribution teams, whether it's going to be 3ABN or Hope Channel. We're not quite sure. Those are some other decisions that some of our leaders. So stay tuned.
So we're still working at our distribution.
So, yeah.
We're working on that.
So is there a website or anything where they can follow the progress?
There is a website, iwantthiscity.com.
Yes.
So that one is the official website. It's not quite
Barely
polished.
Yeah,
It's barely
so
begun.
that's going to be, we invite our viewers, you can go check it out, see an episode or two there, but it's...
Another way, if they want to see, there's only 2 episodes up there, but
Yeah, but at least you can then put things
Yeah.
up, and we're going to make it
Yes.
look polished, and then we'll have some other additional resources that we still have to develop, kind of a study guide. So as we raise these issues, whether in the show, as we go through the life and ministry of our church planting team and through my eyes, we're wanting then to make resources for the local church, maybe a small group Bible study, Sabbath school discussion, whatever context. So then that way they can watch a segment and then discuss and then look at some of those things. So that additional resources and some of the Facebook and social media components, those are going to be still in development. So we hope to have that, rolling that out soon. And so by God's grace.
By God's grace.
Yeah,
Well, it's
in
like
talking
giving,
about that,
giving birth to a baby, as it were.
Well, and it's not
shown-
just one baby. I think we got
It's 13.
triplets in there.
we showed a couple of these at Faith Camp last year,
Right.
and we found that you can't just watch it and walk away.
Yeah.
Because we would show it, and the people would sit there stunned.
Yeah.
It's like they're in shock because they're seeing things in a way they've never seen it before. It's right there on the screen in front of them. They can't ignore it. They can't, if they wanted to, they couldn't ignore it. They can't pretend they don't know now, because they know. Many people don't know. They just don't know.
Right.
And so when it's presented like that in video, in full color, and
So we have
it's
to
shocking. So there has to be a way.
Yeah.
Like you're
an
saying,
action
a discussion group and ways to connect
change your behavior,
and figure out.
to do something.
And that we're looking for that response system right now, that to link with maybe some people want to go, and so then there'll be some links there, so then that way they can apply, and whether they're a grandmother or a businessman or a lawyer, a teacher or media. So then that way, whether it's in Bangkok specifically, or then that way, if they have other skills, they can then go to say, where can I serve? And so that's where, yes, we need highly educated and skilled people, but then we need people who have just a heart for God and to go to the planet. And so those systems will be a part of the, and maybe we could put up a couple links right now to kind of, so that way people can start looking that and give us feedback as we build the full edition of the website.
And
There are 2 shows up there, you said?
Yeah, there's 2.
There's the open and then there's the show. But if you want to see the whole thing, you can go to my album on Vimeo.com.
Yeah, and so
We'll
you
put that
can
link
put that
on-
link on the
yeah.
website. So.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say with your comment about, when you showed this at Faith Camp and people are seeing things as they've never seen them before, I believe one of the aspects of the blindness of Laodicea that Revelation 3 talks about is our blindness to the needs of our brothers and sisters. And I really believe that this series is going to take the scales, as it were, off of the eyes of the Laodicean church and motivate them to action. I really believe it will.
That's a very interesting statement because I've just found one by Mrs. White. She says, the only hope for Laodicea, okay, this is the only hope, is for them to see their true condition before God and the nature of their disease. And to me, this is it.
Yes.
I mean, Malachi 3 is prophetic for the Day of Atonement. And the issue God deals with is finances.
Yeah.
And when we stop giving, I think, who is it, Paul, that says, the love of many shall wax cold? Many in the church. And you look at the word love, it's actually, can be translated benevolence. Yeah. The giving of many shall fade away. So we are in a prophetic time that I believe God's going to make a difference. He's going to make a change. There's going to be revival, and I believe it's going to be for the love of the world, for the love of people like Miss Gan and these beautiful people of Thailand and many other places, Indonesia. I love Indonesia. Right. Cambodia, Pakistan, Laos. I mean, all these different countries, China, Africa.
Right.
How many countries in Africa are there that are needing it?
We have a text that we want to share from a viewer, and that was that they're enjoying the Inspiring program. And then we received another one. It says, we're watching from the Philippines and enjoying watching the show and praying for you all and for all that you do for mission awareness. And then it says, now can you please send my husband home?
That's
Guess
my
who
wife.
is from?
So hi, honey.
She said she signed it, Dawn Venn, the wife.
So we love you.
Yes, we miss you. We wish you could be here too.
That's right.
She
Anyway.
sacrificed her husband quite a bit for this show also.
Yes, she did.
And so
She
did
did.
your wife, because your wife wasn't able to be in Thailand for
The
some
whole
of the
time.
I went
Yeah.
over thinking this is going to be 2 months. And at the end of the 2 months, I'm like, there's no way. So I asked God, what should I do? And he says, your sorrow shall be turned into joy, which means stay longer. I'll bring your wife to you. And she has 2 kids as well. So they would come
So they
also.
would have to come,
Yes. And that's the way it worked out.
Later on, they were able to join us.
Yeah.
So we were apart 3.5
4
months.
months. Yeah, 4 months apart, 3 months together, another month apart.
Yeah.
And the last month, I think, was harder than the first one. It was not easy. But
So you
anyway, do you have another clip to
I do.
show us?
Yes, I do. This one. I don't know if you want to set this up.
Okay, here is the Hope for Bangkok Church Planting Initiative. What they did is we were going and we had different communities where we're serving. And so in this community, thanks to one of our laymen, Brother Weenai, and he is a Thai, and he has Indian heritage. So that's why you'll see him wearing one of the turbans.
Yeah. This is specifically about this grandma.
Yeah, but he set this up.
Okay.
And so then right now we're working with the local community leader of this slum. And right now I've asked this young adult, or she's one of our high school students at Ekmai International School, about prayer for this grandma.
Yes.
And so let's go to the clip now.
Yes.
How old was she when she first heard this story?
คือเขาอยากรู้ว่าตอนที่ยายได้ยินเรื่องอะค่ะอายุ70 กว่านะคะ70
She was 70. And she's what, 75 now?
ว่า25 yeah.
So it's just within the last 5 years that she had a chance to hear the story of Jesus. So we wanted to know if she had any prayer requests, and so then that way we can, have a chance to ask the living God to, bless her in her life.
ป้าคะคือเขาอยากถามว่าป้ามีคำอธิษฐานอะไรที่อยากจะให้พวกเราเป็นคนอธิษฐานนะ
So she's asking the question of,
คือเหมือนคือถ้ายายมีอย่างเงี้ยยาย
do you have any prayer requests that we can ask, God? So she's trying to, right now she's explaining what is prayer to Grandma
มีอะไร
right
บ้าง
now.
ก็มีเงินมีตังค์อะไรพวกนี้ Okay, so she's asking for like health, her health, and a little wealth. Yeah. She's saying that like she doesn't have any like income right now. Her son has like mental problems, so he's not like really working. Yeah, so she's the one. Yeah, he couldn't work, so she's the one who's working and earning. So everything that like all the food she has, she's asking from the temple.
Okay, so here's a grandma
Yeah.
that didn't know how to pray.
Well, she, I don't know if you noticed or if our viewers noticed, but this young adult, this college or this high school student, she's having to explain prayer to this grandma. And she's never heard the name of Jesus for 70 years.
Wow.
And so this is where, our Pastor Gawan Plai Puching is now, the church planter, he's now praying for her. And that's why it took so long. And I don't know if my translation was clear because of the community rice giveaway that was going on in that slum at that time. But to me, this illustrates the reality that there are millions, if not billions, on the planet, just like this grandma. They've never heard. They've never heard.
And so, it wouldn't take a theology degree to explain how to pray.
And that's why the young adult, this high school student, she was able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are places that just ordinary people can serve.
Amen. Yes. Everyone has a role to play.
Well, we'd like to welcome Luis to the show. Luis is our director, and we'd like to have you share a little bit of your perspective of what we're just talking about where anyone can serve. You grew up overseas, correct?
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Panama, but I moved when I was about 15 to Venezuela. So I grew up in South America, we can say.
Okay, so you have a little bit of a perspective of missions that's different from some of us that grew up here.
Oh, very different, very different. In Venezuela, I talk about Venezuela because that's when I lived the longer and I was involved in church a lot and all this stuff. I was a member of a church of 4,000 members. Huge church. It was huge church. We had all kind of groups, all kind of things happening in the church. In my whole life, I only heard one missionary. I saw one missionary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because he kind of looked weird to me.
Like me? Like he had handsome?
It was, one second, I think they cannot hear me. Oh, it's mute.
That could explain it.
We're being careful and turning mics on and off, muting mics, and sometimes we.
Well, should I restart what I was saying, just in case?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, being from South America, from a big church, And I remember one day this guy showed up at church. He was dressed, he had something long like a
robe?
Like a robe and like all buttons. And he started talking about he was a missionary. But for me it was so weird, this guy, and I couldn't, I don't know, it was just different. I wouldn't say weird, but it was very different. But that happened only once in my whole life.
So that's the only missionary you remember
Was there
seeing?
a call? Did you sense
Never.
a call from your church to be a missionary?
Never.
Did you know anybody that went as a missionary?
No.
What was a missionary?
Well, I thought I was one. Because we had a group that we will go to different places in Venezuela, and we will go to start churches in different places. But for me, missionary out there was an American.
Oh.
That's for me, missionary. It was okay. It has to be American, because I grew up in the churches, and I never heard a call to go on mission. I mean, we used to read those mission reports every Sabbath, and I would learn them by memory. Sometimes they will give it to me, oh, next Sabbath you have to read it. So I will memorize it and say it at church. But I never thought it was a call for me. Actually, tell you the truth, those mission reports every Sabbath, they don't call for people. I don't know if you notice it, but they never call for people.
It's just a story?
It is always a story, and remember that...
Pray for them or something?
Yeah, and to
Mission
put in the
send
money
money.
for the last trimester or whatever, it's going
13th
to go
Sabbath.
to these people. But it was never a call for people. So I'm thinking, or I guess a lot of people think, I have to put a little more in my offering, and that's it. I don't have to go. There's a lot of Americans over there.
You don't think you have to put yourself in the offering plate like that?
Yeah, and it's like, and I talked to John about it. It's so weird that I realized that we never think that we could become a missionary. It's like it was never in my mind. And I mean, I had a lot of friends. Like I said, I was in a big church. And I never heard anybody, oh, I'm going to Africa to be a missionary. Or I just came back from Thailand. Never. So when I started working here, there's more weird people.
It's not just Americans.
Yeah. And
And you became one. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
and I heard you saying, in India and Thailand and all these places, but that was a completely different thing for me. It was like I came, and when I say I came, when I became a volunteer and work in a ministry, it was like the other side of the church that I never saw. And you were talking about this lady, 45,
Right.
and I came to realize that I could be a missionary after 40 being in the church. So how difficult is even for them to hear about Christ, if we don't have that. And I'm not talking here, but I don't know how is it right now in South America. It might be changing, but in the whole time I was there, never got the call.
Right.
And it's difficult.
Yeah, and I think that this is something where we as pastors could be part of the solution or part of the problem. According to Ephesians 4, if we look there, the Lord invites us, and this is something where I have been passionate about. We can see here, Galatians. So
It's all in the New Testament.
yeah, sorry, in here. We can see here in Scripture where the Lord is giving us the spiritual gifts, and He gives us for a reason here. No, it is Ephesians chapter 4. That the Lord is, he's saying there's one body in verse 4, one body, one spirit, just as you were called to one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God. But then verse 7, but to each of us is given grace, was given according to the measure of Christ's gift. And so this is something where when we become believers, when we receive this gift of grace, then what happens? We can continue on there in verse 11. He, that's Christ himself, gave some of these gifts to be apostles, some be prophets, some evangelists, and some pastor teachers. So he then gives this grace for this group of people. For what purpose? And then this is the key for you, Luis. Verse 12 says, for the equipping of the saints. And that's you. That's the members. For the work of the ministry. And so this right now, I can see this around the planet. Now, I can see it. I saw it in Thailand. I can see it here during my 14 years here in the U.S., that there's a misunderstanding that many pastors and members have, that they're not following. So the pastor is the one who does the bulletin, is the janitor, is the greeter. The pastor does all of these things here instead of inviting the members. Can you do this? Can you do this? To find their role and service according to Scripture. Because it is these apostles, prophet, evangelists, pastor, teachers, they're the ones to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And you can see here, and so this is where, let me accept responsibility for that on behalf of, the pastors on the planet. Okay, as a pastor, as called, this is something where we need to give that call to our members. That right now we are needing people in the field. We need people. Yes, we need the funds, but we need people to give their lives, imagination, their gifts, their interest, their creativity. And so this is something where everyone has a place in the mission, in advancing this message to the planet. And so, anyway, I just wanted to share that scripture. I know this has actually changed my ministry philosophy. It's changed the direction. And it's actually, instead of me now busy, playing janitor and greeter and all these other things, I now step back and saying with my leadership team as a local pastor, to say, how are we caring for and ministering spiritually to the families, but then also, so then that way they're connected with Christ. They're reaching up, just like the Tell the World strategy there. Then they reach across to then care for one another. But then as a pastor with these spiritual gifts, I then say with our leadership team, how can you reach out to touch your community, to touch a hurting planet, to touch a nation that has never heard? And so that is something that's our privilege as ministers. We're a priesthood of all believers according to Scripture. And we're an even, we don't have a hierarchy among us. We're not supposed to, according to Scripture. But we have different roles and functions. And so the function according to Scripture of this group who have this spiritual gift is to then prepare people like Luis, with your media skills of how can you then serve to those who've never heard.
So you're saying that the ones with these apostles and pastors and teachers, etc., are there to equip the body.
Correct.
To do the work.
It says equip the saints for the work of the ministry, and that is then for the building up or the edifying of the body of Christ. So that is where, if we were going to be biblical on this, so that's, anyway, to stay focused on what the Bible says.
As you're being biblical, I'm remembering the rest of Luis's story when he decided to become a missionary. You told your friends and family at church, and
and before I go to that, even the fact that my church was so big is contrary to what we have to do. Because, on Sabbath we could have 5,000 people in my church. But I never heard a call, not even to divide or
to plant churches.
It's like I mean, we work so hard in our church to bring more and more and more people in into our huge already church, you know. And I realize now that we shouldn't do that. We should have small churches. So when it gets full, then now we need to move them somewhere else.
Or if you have a large church, then you can then start planting other churches and then bless your community, bless your city. And I've even heard of some large churches who are now sending missionaries to other countries. And so that is something where it's just a leadership, alignment to what God in His Word says. So I'm sorry that that was your experience back, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
I want to think that maybe I wasn't ready, and God prepared me to make a change in my life. When I'm not saying that I was completely spiritual ready for doing it, but He decided, and she was saying when I decided to become a volunteer, the church was the first one to fight not to let me go. And of course, I understand we were a small church, and the people that have responsibilities in the church, there was not too many. But I think we should encourage when somebody said, I want to be a missionary.
Yeah.
And I think the whole church should get together. I mean, imagine if every single church has right now one missionary. Because we don't have that. Not even one. I mean, I preach in my church not in Venezuela, but in Florida. And I said, when I ask people why you're not a missionary, they will say, well, not everybody's called to be a missionary.
Right.
So I say, yeah, that's true, but what is the percentage? Is 50% okay to go? Is 30? Is 20? Is 10%? Okay, let's see in this church how many missionaries we have. And there was one guy that once in a while will do mission trips and come back. And I said, well, this is 1 in 100. And that percentage is not, I mean, I don't think when Ellen G. White wrote that, well, 90% could stay at home and 1% send them once in a while.
Right.
And it was hard for me because I was almost believing that maybe I'm making a mistake by going. Because, the pressure of you can stay here, there's a lot of work here, but when you see the needs in other countries, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I hope then, by God's grace, that through the show, through education, and that through God's Spirit moving upon His people, and whether that's through the Revival and Reformation Initiative or some of these other things, that our members can see that they have a place. Our pastors and other leaders can see that their role is to equip and to bless, to encourage, and to send these people off to where God is calling them. Because God might be calling you to a slum or to a city, to an unreached language group, to be a businessman in a limited access or a restricted country. But God is the one who can work on these hearts. And if we can foster that, then we can truly make a difference on this planet and bring the message of gospel of Jesus Christ and His soon return to the people.
Yes.
We're nearing the end of our time here.
Can you imagine? 2 hours is gone.
Almost gone.
Yeah.
Do you have one short clip that we can?
I do. This is
see?
Well, I think one of Doug's favorite stories. One of them.
Yes.
You have many, but this is an exciting story.
Okay, so here we are in this slum. It's on, I think, Mother's Day or Father's Day, one of our Thai holidays, and Pastor Gawanplai Puching is preaching. My son is filming this one. John and I are in another area, and we're going to see someone who 40 years earlier, or we want to watch the clip and then tell the story?
We'll tell. Good.
Our Thai church planter, Gawanplai Puching, is right now over here in this room because what they're going to do is he's going to be sharing kind of a New Year's blessing sermon because this is the Thai New Year, and then that way he can give the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. It's going to go out over the PA system over this entire slum community. So.
อยากได้สุขภาพที่แข็งแรงสมบูรณ์
Gawanplai right now is sharing, asking, during this Thai New Year to, ask God to bless the people. And so a part of that blessing that Gawanplai is right now is that he's going over the 10 Commandments. And so then that way, how when we worship God alone, he gives us blessing. And then also when we honor our father and mother, that he then gives us a long life. So when we follow God's law. So that's what he's preaching right now. Are there people listening? So we just pray the Lord that.
All right. Can I share?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
You caught me on the clip saying, "Are people listening?"
Are people listening?
And I mean, there was just chaos, and here we are in the slum community. The community leaders organizing this rice giveaway that our brother Winai and our school were working on. But here on the screen, there's a lady. You can see her just seated there, right there, and her name is Pewatana.
Mm-hmm. She's the one in the pink.
Kind of in the pink there with her purse. Yeah, she's a grandma. She's a grandma, but here's the rest of the story. She got her bag of rice, then she saw the literature and the prayer card table. She signed up. She wanted someone to come to her home. We came to her home. Our missionary, Roger Atun, he came and did follow-up. Because when she heard Pastor Gawanplai reading the 10 Commandments, the Spirit of God reminded her of that truth, because 40 years later, or earlier, 40 years earlier, she watched the Charleston Heston version of the 10 Commandments.
Oh, wow.
The Hollywood movie.
The Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But God used that to plant a seed saying to her, this is true.
Wow.
And it was like 40 years later that then she heard those same 10 Commandments. Over the loudspeaker in that slum. And then if we fast forward, and we'll come to the website and you can see her story, she actually tells her testimony, stay tuned for that. She then comes into contact with God's people. And then later on, she was then baptized. And now she's a missionary in her slum community, sharing, and she just loves Jesus, and she's just glowing with the love and grace of God. And so that's where she's now a worker in this very community.
Wow.
And so my question is, anyone listening here, my own doubt, was rebuked. This woman, Pewatana, grandma, a precious daughter of God, she accepted the gospel.
Amazing. Amazing. So God planted a seed in her pagan heart 40 years ago.
That's right.
Before this happened.
That's right. And through the church,
from a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. And through the church planting team, they were able then to then share, and through the follow-up, they were able then to touch her life and to share with her the gospel and the testing truths of today.
Amazing.
I wonder how many times in that 40 years God tried to get somebody to go and read the 10 Commandments to her.
I don't know.
Someday exciting. We'll have to ask him. It is exciting that she heard and she accepted, and now she knows the one that loves her.
And now she's sharing that. She received grace, and now she's stepping out by faith and then going. And that's the call we all have, to be missionaries, to then serve those who've never heard.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Then you were there. You were there that day.
I was there that day, yeah.
Yes?
That was a blessed privilege.
It was a hot day.
It was very hot.
But to see that kind of, and that's what I've seen with others. Another lady that became an Adventist through a friendship of someone that was not a missionary. He was there for business purposes, but he was open, and he knew about God. Hired this person, and that person learned a little bit by little bit by little bit about God, and she opened her heart to God. And when he came in to her heart, she realized that he had been working with her since she was a little kid, trying to teach her, give her a little piece of the puzzle here and there. And as she was open and seeing all these things, she didn't see the big picture. She just got a little bit here and here. And then when God came into her life and started teaching her directly, she recognized that this is the one that's been teaching me all my life. And all these pieces of the puzzle came together in one beautiful picture. And she is so excited. She just giggles. He lives inside me. And she's just so excited about that.
She's in the show also. You can see her story.
Yes, she is interviewed in the show. So how many others out there
has he been working
with
and wooing?
And waiting for somebody to bring recognition.
That's right. And like our viewer said, you know, how can we go, how can they hear without those who go?
Well, we've had a number of other viewer comments this evening, and we're thankful to have our viewers interacting with us. And we thank you so much, Pastor Doug, for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, a privilege, and it's been challenging. And I want to invite our viewers to watch our show again on Monday evening at 8, from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be having our regularly scheduled Monday night Mission TV Live, and John will be joining me. And our topic this week is objections to mission. We've talked about a few of those this evening. And our question for you to respond to by email or Facebook or Twitter is, what objections have you heard or raised against being a missionary? And here's the second question. What keeps you from being a foreign missionary? So there's a little bit challenging, but we'd like to hear your answers. You can email them to us at live@missiontv.com. You can send them to our Facebook page, Mission TV Live. You could also send them to us by Twitter, MissionTV_com. So your answers to those questions or ideas about that topic or any other topic that you would like to see us discuss on the show. And I want to thank you for watching Mission TV Live. We're so glad that you could join us. We look forward to seeing you Monday night at 8 p.m. And may God bless you as you seek heavenly treasure. Okay, it appears that we're not ready for the close yet, so I'm going to just go ahead and ask Doug if he'd like to speak to our audience. I had that impression earlier, and we didn't think we had the time, but God has given us the time.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for those who are already sacrificing and being a part of the mission of the church to bring hope and a message to those, whether it's your neighbor, your coworker, or your non-Christian friend in your city or you're in your town, or those who have never heard. I would like to invite you to join us with the General Conference to look at how you can participate, how you, through your life, through your service, through your imagination, what you can do to advance a message of hope. We're facing one of our largest challenges is our cities and unreached language groups, as I shared before. And so we need people. We need imagination. We need, and so we will have some websites that you can look here on the Mission TV website where you can then find a response. And I invite you to pray, what can I do? I know that there's other resources, and I've wanted to share some of these here. We've got a new magazine that the General Conference Office of Adventist Mission is publishing. It's called Mission 360, and this is a great resource to kind of help expose what is going on in context with the need. And so this is another resource that we'd like to invite you to explore to help you in your prayer as well as in your devotional life to understand what is going on in our missions. We also, we know that Jesus is coming soon. And I know that His grace and the message of hope has transformed my life, my family's life as we've gone to serve, and as we're serving right now there in Asia. We've been serving now 7 years. We don't know what the future holds, but we know that Christ holds us And this life, this adventure that we're on, that is, and the joy that we've seen in our lives is something that you too can also have as a viewer. And you can pray to the Lord to say, is He asking me to go? Is He asking me to send? But we just ask that you pray to see what you can do and how you can enter into this joy with Jesus Christ on touching the lives of those, the least of these, our brothers and sisters in the 1040 window, in this area where many people don't have access to the gospel. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you again, Pastor Doug, and I'm glad we had an opportunity for you to talk to the viewers that way and to share those last few thoughts. And I just want to challenge our viewers again to choose to give your whole life to Jesus. It will never be the same, but it will be so much better. We look forward to seeing you again on Monday night at 8 p.m. when you join us for the next Mission TV Live. May God bless you as you seek heavenly treasure.